Hey, shalom, welcome back everybody. I'm Levi Chazan, and I'm coming to you today from Yeshiva Tarayon HaYehudi here in Yerushalayim. Last time up, we saw in chapter 8 the successful conclusion of the War of Ai. The Jews were successful, they destroyed the city, took the spoils, and destroyed and killed all the inhabitants of the city, women, children, men, kaput. The second part of the chapter taught us that at that point, then Yoshua went and offered sacrifice, which was outside the city of Shechem on the two mountaintops, Abel and Gerizim, and there they received the covenant from God, the blessings, and the curse. Most commentaries, including Rashi and the Talmud, tell us that this is not in its proper place. Actually, this took place at the beginning when the Jews first entered into the land of Eretz Israel. On the first day, they managed to journey from the Jordan River all the way out to Shechem and then back again. But it was placed over here. Now we could ask why. Why was it placed over here? My humble opinion, I believe that this was in order to God to teach us a very important lesson. The blessings and the curses is upon us, and it is dependent upon our actions. If we do according to the will of God, what He wants, heed the Torah, then we will be successful in our battles. And if we don't, God forbid, then we will fall by the wayside, as we have seen in the war with Ai, where we also suffered a defeat, but we also were victorious afterwards in the second battle against Ai. So this was placed over here in order to imprint upon us this very important message that we must follow the roadmap, the authentic Jewish roadmap of the Jewish people, the Torah, when you come in and you live in the land of Eretz Yisrael. Chapter 9 teaches us, and opens up, when all the kings that were on this side of the Jordan, the hill country and the valleys, on the shores of the Great Sea, opposite Lebanon, the 7 nations that lived over here, they heard about these great battles that took place over here, and they all gathered together to make war with Yoshua in one, unified, together. All of them came together over here. They said to themselves, we've seen over here a miraculous victory in Jericho, and now we have seen a military takeover in the city of Ai Beit El, and we see that both ways the Jews have it covered, either naturally and supernaturally. We can't beat them. So they thought maybe we could have strength in numbers. If we all come together as one, unified, we will be able to attack the Jewish people and to destroy them. The Midrash teaches us that there are 3 places during the history of mankind when all of mankind came together to so to speak, to fight against God and His people, the Jewish people. The first time was in Babylon, when they built the Tower of Babylon, Migdal Bavel, when all the nations came together and they built this tremendous tower to reach the heavens in order to, so to speak, make war with God. That didn't work out too well for them, if I recall. The second time is over here with Yoshua, when all the nations will come that are living over here, 31 kings that are living in Eretz Yisrael, coming together to fight against Yoshua and the Jewish people. As far as I remember, that didn't work out so well for them either. And the third time the Midrash tells us that the nations will once again come together to fight against us is in our days, the days of Gog and Magog. And you can actually see that happening before us. The world is unified through the UN, through the European nations, all coming together as one, a collective conglomerate, in order to come, and eventually they will take counsel amongst themselves and come to the conclusion that all of the troubles of the world are because of the Jewish people. They will come en masse in force to have a final battle against the Jewish people and the mighty one of Jacob. That also didn't work out so well for them. I could put money on that. In any case, the inhabitants of Givon, we're over here on the 3rd sentence in the 9th chapter of Yoshua. They heard what Yoshua had done to Jericho and Ai. Now they figured, we have no chance against these people. Let's make a covenant with them. But they knew they had a particular problem. And the problem that they had over here was that the Talmud Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, teaches us that when Yoshua was about to enter into the land of Eretz Yisrael, he had sent an Igeret, he had sent a letter to all the cities throughout the land of Eretz Yisrael, explaining to them that the master of this universe is now bringing the Jewish people into its proper place, the land of Eretz Yisrael, which belongs to us, and it is time for you to make a decision. And you have three options what you want to do with this problem that you're now facing. The first option was to make peace. And when we talk about making peace with the Jewish people, it doesn't actually mean that everyone's on equal terms over here. Rather, they are obligated to accept upon themselves the 7 mitzvot of Bnei Noach, the 7 commandments of Noach. It means to give away worshipping of idols and everything that they were doing up until this point. They had to be subjugated before the Jewish people, and they had to pay taxation to the Jewish people. So those are the 3 conditions that they had to accept if they wanted to go through that path, the path of peace. The other option which was given to them is that they could pack up and leave. Actually, one of the 7 nations actually picked themselves up and moved down to Africa, get away from it all, don't have to be involved, and that was good for them. And of course, the third option is those who want to come and make war, bring it on. Bring it on. So those are the 3 options which every city in Eretz Yisrael received from Yoshua, a proposal. And as I mentioned, one of the nations picked themselves up and left. 31 kings came to fight against the Jewish people and fell in battle. And Givon, the Givonites, came and tried to make peace with us. But they thought that because the proposal had already been called upon and they didn't answer it within the 24-hour period of time that they had to answer it, so they thought that now we don't know what to do, and we were going to work through trickery in order to trick the Jewish people in order to have a peace treaty with them. So they worked with cunningness. The Hebrew word over here is ba'arma. Ba'arma. We saw that word trickery used in a few places in the text, and in a moment we'll get to that. So what did they do? They disguised themselves. Purim. They made a Purim shtick out of this whole thing over here. They wore old clothes. They took sandals that were cut. They took rotten food together, and they made it look like they're coming from a long distance journey over here. They came to the camp of Yoshua in Gilgal, and they said to them, "We have come from a distant land. Make a covenant with us." So immediately Israel was suspicious of them, and said, "Perhaps you come and you come from a place that you're in the midst. You belong over here, and you're trying to trick us." They said, "We are your servants, and we come from a very distant land." You know what they did? They actually, while they were dressing up in order to put these disguises on, they went into Walmart and they got those meat preserve long johns, and they were holding those like, "Oh, we came from a long journey to eat those." Love those. Love those. And they said that we heard about all the fame that you have done to Egypt and to the 2 kings, the Amorites, on this side, on the other side of the Jordan, etc. So they gave actually old news that happened. The Egyptians, that was 40 years ago. The kings of the Amorites was a while ago. They didn't talk about Jericho and Ai. So they wanted to give the impression that, oh, we came from such a long way. We don't even know about the new miracles that were happening over here. And Yeshua over here in this 15th century, Yeshua made peace with them, and he made a covenant with them, and he let them live. And the prince of the congregations swore to them. Now it was after 3 days, after making this covenant of peace with these people, that they found out that these people really live in the midst of the 7 nations over here. Lo and behold, they had tricked the Jewish people. But because the Jewish people had sworn to them, "We have sworn by the Lord God of Israel that we may not touch them," so they let them live. Meaning, if it wasn't for this covenant and this this swearing by God's name, they would have given them their just punishment for coming to trick the Jewish people, and of course they would have put them to death by the sword. But because God's name was placed down over here with this brit, with this covenant that they made with them, so they restrained from killing them. This is what we shall do to them, we shall let them live, because of the oath we have sworn to them. And the princes said to them, let them live, so they will become the carriers of wood and the drawers of water for the congregation. And Yeshua called them, and he said, why have you deceived us, saying that you came from far away, when you dwelt amongst us? Not nice. Not nice at all. And they answered Yeshua, because we were certain, told to your servants, that that this land was given over to you, and you were going to destroy all the inhabitants of the land. And we were very, very afraid of the might of the Jewish people. And Yeshua cursed them. Yeshua actually curses them and makes them the carriers of wood and the drawers of water for the congregation, for the altar of the Lord to this day, in this place that he would choose. So we see over here a couple of things that are interesting. First of all, we learn, this is brought down by the Sifri, by the Rambam, by other people, about the laws of these people who want to continue to make peace with Israel and to live here amongst us. Not only do they, as I mentioned, have to take upon themselves the 7 commandments of the sons of Noach, but they also have to pay taxes, and they have to give work to the Jewish people. The Sifri comments, if they agree to taxation but not to work, or to work or not to taxation, we do not listen to them. The Radak, in our commentary over here in our sentence, if they submit and get rid of their idol worship and accept the 7 Noahide laws, they must also become subjects and serve Israel, as it says. The Rambam writes, serving the Jewish people involves accepting inferior status, not lifting their heads amongst the Jews. Rather, they must remain conquered subjects, never to be appointed over Israel for any purpose in the world. Meaning, in the land of Eretz Yisrael, as we've just quoted over here in the Code of Laws of the Rambam and others, they can never be appointed to any type of position that has any type of power, especially over any other Jews. They must be ready to serve the king physically and with their money. The Rambam seems to interpret the part of work of the non-Jew. He must not be appointed to any post over Israel. That is the law of these inhabitants who want to continue to live in the land of Eretz Yisrael when the Jewish people rule here. We see over here that Yeshua cursed them. Now the same wording over here is interesting, because that's the same wording that we also find way back at the beginning of creation with the Nachash, the famous snake. He also used trickery in order to deceive Eve to get her to partake of the forbidden fruit, which was over there. Now it's interesting that we note that, because the Nachash, there's a couple of similarities between the Givonim and the Nachash itself. The Nachash came and spoke Lashon Hara about God. He degraded God. He told them that if you eat the apple, you also will be a god, and that's where God got his power from. The Givonim also come and speak Lashon Hara and come out with an outright lie against the Jewish people. The Nachash's intention was that Adam would eventually eat from this fruit, and he would be able to marry Eve, so to speak. And here the Givonim's purpose is to trick the Jewish people in order to cause their downfall. And just as the Nachash was cursed from all the animals, so too Yeshua places the curse upon the Givonim for what they did to the Jewish people by tricking them, and they are subjugated to be the carriers of wood and the drawers of water for all time. And we see that this for hundreds of years they worked in connected to where the tabernacle was in order to help the Kohanim, chopping the wood and bringing the water for them in the service of the temple and the tabernacle. And in the time of King David, as we will learn later on, the Givonim were excluded from ever being part of the Jewish people. Meaning we do not accept any converts from the people of Givon because they showed a very cruel trait that they had of that. And anyone who is cruel is not part of the Jewish people, as we know. So, that concludes chapter 9. Questions, comments, I'm here for you. We'll see you next time right here on the Yeshiva Harayon's TV station. I'm Levi Chazan. Levi Chazan.